everything to do with growing your business. Your business is only going to grow as much as you do. And that's just the hard facts. And, so you can see this time and time again show up in people. And if you're just chasing the dollar, you're just chasing the end game. It's like taking that magic bullet or like a pill or something like that, or a magic pill, excuse me, or, just like a shortcut route. And that is never going to be sustainable. And I am not a coach who, I'm go to the root cause. So you don't come back to this situation again. So if you want like a Band-Aid approach, I'm just not the coach for that, because I want you to have real results, which comes from the inside out.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues, the podcast where we interview business owners on how they built their businesses and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Wynn, and I'm a business coach and the founder of Purple Circle, where we help business owners achieve their first 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure year, all without sacrificing their quality of life. Before becoming a business coach and before founding Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7- and 8-figure coaching businesses, and have been a consultant at several businesses doing over $100 million each, including some that are publicly listed and doing over $1 billion each. In every episode of the podcast, you're going to learn lessons that took our guests years to learn, and you'll be able to learn that in minutes. No matter if you're a new business owner or an established business owner, every episode is going to give you the clues in order to elevate your business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Jill Phillips, founder of Strategic Solutions and Jill Phillips Coaching, where she helps visionary entrepreneurs and CEOs step into their truest, most authentic leadership through her Leadershift Framework. She's trained in the entrepreneurial operating system, is a board-certified hypnotherapist, and has been featured in Voyage, KC Magazine, and Biz 417, among others. Welcome to the show, Jill.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Great to have you. Now you could be doing so many things with your life, right, Jill? But you chose coaching. So I'd love for us to rewind a bit, because every coach has that moment when they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you?
Yeah. My background, psychology, communications, led me to doing speech therapy for a while. And I thought, this just isn't it. And I almost got envious when I heard other people say they found their thing. I'm like, how do you know when you find your thing? And actually my thing, which is now coaching, came to me in the midst of a breakdown. And during that time, I started working with a coach. I didn't even really know what it was or what it could do for me, but I thought I got to try something. And in the midst of that, like 3 sessions in, not only was it everything that I didn't know that I needed, but there was this like light bulb moment that really went off that said, this is what you thought you would be doing. I really wanted to work with relatively healthy people who are committed to their vision, dreams, and goals. And so that's where it just clicked with me. I don't know that coaching was really an offering when I was in college per se. There wasn't like a clear path there. And so I just said, this is it. And it just lit me up. And so I had to stay, I was really attuned with my energy at that time and what felt off and what felt right. And I just knew I had to follow that next thing. And so here I am 11 years later.
Okay, 11 years later. Okay, I'd love to dive into that. Well, first of all, let's expand on that name, right? Solutions. There is a certain type of word, soul, in the middle of that. So can you explain to me and the audience, well, what's up with that, Jill?
So strategic solutions, it's a strategy and soul approach. A strategy is great, but it's really just a hypothesized plan that we start taking action on. And it's so important to do that, to have a plan. Otherwise, life or business can run you versus you run your business. So you got to have a strategy and a plan for it. But really, anyone can go find a plan these days. You got to be very aligned with it. And that's where the soul part comes in. A lot of the work I do is the mindset work and understanding how the mind works through our, CEO part of our brain, our decision maker, our limbic brain, which is our emotional part, and then the reptilian brain, which is where the fear kicks in. But there's something beyond that translates beyond that. Those 3 are all important, but it's the soul. And that's I'm in it for the people. And I'm a people first. And that means I care about who they are down to their soul. And so strategic solutions just seem to be very fitting because everyone's looking for a solution. Well, where do you find that? In strategy and soul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back in time a little bit, 11 years ago, right, when you launched your business, because in the early days, for a lot of coaches out there, it starts with sort of a calling. I'm helping people. I'm almost giving advice. And then a shift happens, which is, you know what? I'm building a real business around this, right? I'm launching something. It's generating revenue. So what I want to understand is when that happened for you, that clicked for like, this is a real business, was it like the first paying client, first invoice, first testimonial? You know what I mean? Can you
Yeah.
expand on that?
It wasn't the first. It wasn't even the first year that really clicked for me. I was running a service. It still is a service-based business, but I was running a service, and how can I help? That still is one of my leading factors, is just help first. How can I help? However, 3 years into business, a lot of my clients were entrepreneurs. They were high performers. They were leading companies. They were visionaries. And I had a few of them say, hey, can you come work deeper into my business? And at first I thought, well, here's what an entrepreneur thinks. I'll figure it out. And so in true entrepreneurial fashion, I went to work to go figure out how can I help? And it led me to a book that shared a whole business operating system for entrepreneurs. And I hopped on a plane, went to Detroit, went through years of training, and I was in that community for several years. But it dawned on me as I'm helping them build a business, that's when it landed with me like, oh my gosh, I need to like take my service and run it like a business. And so that was like an aha moment for myself as I was helping other people on how to even build my own. So it was a gift back to my business to be able to help other business owners.
Interesting. And then you realize the impact you're creating, right?
Yeah.
Even after you're like, wait a minute, there's value here. They're actually driving revenue growth based on what I'm talking with them. I love that. Okay. Now, in 11 years of a journey you had, there is a certain type of evolution that eventually happens with coaches, which is like at the start, we're like, yeah, I can help you, right? We're trying to help everyone sometimes because it's such a passion driven profession. But eventually, not sure if that happened with you, we sharpen our blade, we attract a certain type of people, or even we realize we can help these type of people the most, So can you explain to me the journey of your ideal client profile from 11 years ago, and who do you serve now?
Yeah, kind of like you said, when you start, it's like, okay, who wants to work with me? Anybody? And then you do get that person. And, I even did a little bit of exchange of service at the beginning, which I don't so much, or if ever anymore. That's a whole other conversation. But, starting off, there's so much to learn even in that, because everything you do in a business has an energetic exchange, and that can come in the form of dollars or other type of transitions or transactions. But so it's just kind of like who wanted to work with me. And then, you get the referrals because you have the results. And so it starts to build. But here's where my business took a turn is I had this kind of awakening moment that I was carrying other people's heaviness, their dumpster fires. I was carrying those home with me. Okay. And that's when I knew something had to shift and it needed to start with me. And so like, what was that journey? In short, because, we're on a podcast here, I can kind of give you like the quick journey of that, is that I realized that I was wearing this invisible badge that said, I'm a lifeguard. I can save and I can rescue you. I'm still that person on the where it says like, tell me your life story. I've always been that way, probably because I genuinely care. And I listen to people deeply whenever I do listen, but it wasn't serving my business whatsoever. And so I'm like, well, if I'm not a lifeguard, I'm not saving and rescuing people, what am I? And so that's where the lighthouse theory took place. I want to be a lighthouse. I want to just stand there, shine, guide the way, and hold the highest vision and energetic space for those that I serve so they can rise to it. Otherwise, you're going to be, putting out dumpster fires forever. And that's where it also comes into effect. Like, I want to work with relatively healthy people. We all have our stuff. We all have some traumas that are keeping us, at a ceiling, which is why I dove into some other elements of outside of coaching to help support clients. But in general, like it's great to work with people who are willing to do the work and are already accountable people.
So let's do a little bit of a game of pretend here. Let's pretend I'm your avatar, Jill. Okay. I'm that guy or that gal that you serve. So first of all, how would I be able to find you, right? Marketing wise.
Yeah. Couple ways. I do have a website that has the most information on it currently, which is you can go to strategic soul, SOUL solutions.com or jillphillipscoaching.com. So you can learn about me there. Also Instagram, Jill Phillips Coaching, LinkedIn. Those are some great places. I have not yet like just really gone full out in marketing just because I really believe like the results and the referrals share and show for themselves. But, that's also something I'm branching out to. How can I support more people outside of that? So, there's all these different departments of the business, but for anyone to find me right now, those are a couple places.
Okay. So let's say I'm still your avatar here, your ICP. I looked at your website, your social media, or even I was referred to. They're like, hey, you gotta meet Jill, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I give you a call or whatever that looks like. We can speed up the sales process. You realize you can help me. I know you can help me. Okay, there is alignment. I am coachable. I know that's important. But can you give me like a rundown of how does it look like to work with you and the outcomes I can expect?
Good one. Yeah. There's a few different ways that you can work with me. Now that we're going to work together, I'm so excited and I'm in your corner. So here are a few ways that you can choose to without knowing some more information. That helps me help you choose which one. But I do the one-on-one work and I also work with teams in business, leadership teams to help them help the visionary entrepreneur get what they want. So everybody gets a win-win in the business and the organization to increase their impact and the value of the business. And yeah, so we would have to decide from there which place you're going. Do you want to go with one or the other, or do you just want to keep rolling here? No, like, the avatar, do you want to choose one?
You can give me the bread and butter, right? The one that you do the most, even if it's the one-on-one or the group team. You can pick or you can browse both too real quick. I'm just trying to have a sense of things. I can do both.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Yeah. So both of them cover life, leadership, and business because they're all one conversation. One thing bleeds into the other. And so when we work together one-on-one, oftentimes we do an immersion experience. So you can get like kind of the open fire hose of all the framework that we'll be going through to help you get what it is that you want. And we have to identify what that is. From that place is where we know how to take strategic action, but we make sure that you're aligned with that action and what that actually means. And sometimes, either place, there's oftentimes this feeling of like, I'm stuck. I don't know how. The imposter syndrome kicks in. So we might be dealing more with like mindset work or strategy work. It just depends where they come in. And likewise with the teams, there are systems, operating systems for a business, which is, I say, the foundational piece. This is like the vehicle that everything else merges from in your entire organization. And I liken that to having, I've worked with a lot of clients who have a master's in business, yet they're like, we didn't learn this stuff there. No, you won't. Sorry, I hate to say it. I still think college is a good idea for a lot of people. But this is like your business basics that no one really teaches or shares what that even looks like. And so like going into that piece of the work, that's where it's important to bring a team together to onboard them with the system. Because as the leaders go, so go the rest of the organization. So both of these are going to be like the results you get depends on what you're asking for. What do you want? Some companies want to grow and scale, and some are like in the midst of scaling and fly, learn how to build the airplane when it's in the air, and they're just navigating all the fires. And so they just need a coach who can meet them where they are and help them achieve what they want. And so ultimately, like the goal here is to achieve a state of what most people say they want. This is like what I hear across the board. I want peace. I want freedom. I want abundance. I want more money or more impact. And those are the results of doing the work. And so this is like the work I do is what I call the work. You can go to conferences, you can read the books, all the self-help things that you want, podcasts, and those are great. However, who takes you through that process and translates exactly what you're going through on such a customized personal level, calls out the things and even mirrors back to you what they're seeing so you can see yourself. And that's part of the coaching magic. And that is why it's important to work with a true trained coach. A lot of people tagline coach because they've either been coached or they're like a different type of niche coach, if you will, but a true life leadership business coach isn't just a teacher or a facilitator or a trainer. They are actually someone who can mirror back so you can see and have that intrinsic shift and change from the inside out. And that's the power of this work.
Okay. So I'm still your avatar, right? And I want to on a side note here, I worked in corporate banking, consulting firms. And also to that side note, I see a lot of people creating a differentiation from work and life, right?
Hmm.
And let's say I was onboarded. I am coachable, but I'm asking you right now in this scenario, like, Jill, I love all of what you're saying, but you're telling, I thought we're going to improve my bottom line, my profit, grow my business, whatever. All come in business, right? And you're talking about family, you're talking about energy. Like, I'm not getting it. Can you explain me, like, why does that have to do with growing my business?
Has everything to do with growing your business. Your business is only going to grow as much as you do. And that's just the hard facts. And, so you can see this time and time again show up in people. And if you're just chasing the dollar, you're just chasing the end game. It's like taking that magic bullet or like a pill or something like that, or a magic pill, excuse me, or just like a shortcut route, and that is never going to be sustainable. And I am not a coach who I'm go to the root cause so you don't come back to this situation again. So if you want like a band-aid approach, like I'm just not the coach for that, because I want you to have real results, which comes from the inside out.
We ended up coaching the whole person, right? They joined for improving their bottom line, whatever. They stopped sleeping in the couch. They got healthier and all of that, making better decisions with their life. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so
Now,
like it's
let me
worth
shift gears. Right,
Is it worth it to you if
please.
get the financial means, but your health, you're not going to be here tomorrow to enjoy that? Or if you're, a lot of entrepreneurs are like divorce factories too. So it's like, are your relationships, like, what's the cost? But if you look at the whole person, and, I do that really with one-on-one with the leadership teams I work with. I really give them the systems and the tools first. And once they're like on board with those, then we add different segments that are towards their personal development and their leadership development that are baked into it as well. Because again, you've got to work with the leader, and everyone's a leader in some way. What are you leading with? What's the energy you're leading with? What's the conversations? How you communicate? Everything is a representation of your leadership. So the work that I do is like not only going to help you with that end result, but it's going to help you in every area of your life. And that's what is important, I think, from the inside out for sustainable success, which is where the referrals and results continue to come in. So Avatar, I would invite you to speak with some of my former clients who can attest to this work.
Right. On shifting gears for a second here, I'm gonna play a little bit of a devil's advocate. Okay, I see a lot, a lot of coaches out there preaching out against burnout. Don't burn yourself out. Let me help you. And sometimes I see those same coaches burning themselves out because the coaching space. Sometimes we're wearing a lot of hats, right? We're the sales, we're a marketer, there is the coaching craft, but there is also business development, the CEO hat, and what that entails. So your work seems pretty hands-on, right? Very customized. So how do you think about capacity? So don't stretch yourself too thin, Jill.
Well, the first thing I say is like, I've got to be a product of this work too. Any great coach has had great coaches, and I've had some great coaches and great coaching, and also things to restore back my energy. So like I do some of the breath work, I work out, I, do some of those things to fill my cup. Without that, I don't have much to offer and give. But with that, it expands my capacity. And so I do things that contribute to pour back into expand my capacity so I can serve at a higher level. So that is one thing. I've got to be a product of the product. And that is like, yeah. And some other things that like I do. So going back to the question, are you asking things that I do for myself so I don't hit the burnout? Is that essentially what you're asking?
In a way, right? Like I'll give a personal example. Okay. Like I said, I worked in corporate, and when I clocked out, right? It was like, bye bye, everyone. I'm hitting it off. Now
Mhm.
I became a business owner, and sometimes my wife, she's like, on the other side of the office, she's like, hey, that doesn't sound like work. You're laughing a lot, right? You're having fun. And I'm like, yeah, but sometimes I overstep and I need to set up some boundaries because it's hard to turn the switch off, right? Because it's, first of all, it's fun. Doesn't seem like work. Second, it drains you either way. If you're working with fun, it's better. But if you're working 10 hours, you're going to burn yourself out too, you know? So the question is more about the mindset and how to create those boundaries and how you do that.
Yeah, it's kind of been practice and over time. There's not a perfect way to do it. And I think everyone has their own unique way of doing it. But some of my ways that I found helpful for me is starting my morning off with me. And that looks like journaling, reading, just getting some fresh air. There's, some ways to set up your morning for success. And then as, moving through the day, it's helpful for me to the night before to know what I have to do that next day. So to categorize things of importance for me, like this is what has to get done. This is would be ideal to get done. And here's just like another list of to-dos that whenever I get to them, they would be great. So it's to prioritize and then sometimes I've gone through times where I've had accountability on certain things, but pretty much now it is just mapping out my, what I want like 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 1 year, and then every quarter, then every month, then every week. And I have a weekly call with my assistant. And so we like get on the same page and that helps me refocus. Also, I go through one of the tools though, which is the life wheel with all the categories of my life. I try to go through that often, maybe like every other month or so, and just say like, how strong is this area? The areas of importance to me, and where do I maybe need to shift some more of my time? But also, I feel like in the coaching world, and I think this is true in a lot of the entrepreneurial world too, the first 3 years, like, you're lucky to really, you're doing good to break even in the first couple of years, right? And then you're lucky to even still be in business after 3 years, 3 to 5 years, most businesses kind of peter out. Well, if you've made it past that, you're doing something well and something right. And so I think tracking what some of those success things are is just kind of having that confidence. Like, I trust that the next right and best client will come. This comes to the mindset part and the belief. You have to create the future for it to come to you. And so I just kept telling myself, I just trust that the next best right client is going to come to me that I can serve at the highest level. And then over time, I have developed a trust and a confidence in that piece of it as well. It takes a lot of faith, but also takes a lot of action. So I just try to balance my faith and my action and trust. And I'll tell you, it's not let me down, and that's why I still feel like I have the help first mentality and I get to serve in the way that I do and also be present at home. Does that mean I am all the time? No, but because it's so fun, right? It is like a passion work, but I also have to say, all right, what is my boundary going to be? Okay, like at this time, I'm going to turn it off. But what works for me for like 1 week or 1 month or 1 quarter isn't what's going to work for me probably the next. And that's why like doing quarterly resets and quarterly clarity breaks is something that the clients I work with, like we go through, what does that look like? How do you do that? But again, this is where I do that work too.
Okay. Interesting. Now I want to shift gears again for a second. Okay. I want to talk about future, looking ahead. Where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah. I am open to all things. At the same time, I'll have to say I worked with enough companies to say, whoo, people, that's a lot. I think I would be really great with managing a lot of people, but do I want that? I don't know. I think I'm best served like in the space that I'm in, although I do some collaborations from time to time for sure. But where am I going in my future? I am currently writing a book. This will be interesting too. I should do a poll on this. Which title should I use? It's either How to Give a Shift or The Gift of a Shift, because it's all about the shift, which is the acronym for the framework that I have. And then I'm going to be building my talks around how to navigate change when the leadership stakes are high. How do you navigate change inside and out to get the results that you want? So I'm going to be doing a lot more speaking events. I have continued workshops, and this is where some of the work that I've done with businesses and entrepreneurs for, whether it's one-on-one or with their teams, I'm going to be expanding this out to help more. That doesn't have to be local. I mean, a lot of the work I do is on Zoom anyway these days. I mean, like, look at us. This is so cool. We get to connect in this way. So I'm just going to be expanding those offers, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it's wild, right? I'm in Brazil. You're in Springfield, one of
And
the
it's
three
winter,
Springfields, right?
Yeah.
What are the chances? Like, if I'm thinking back like 20 years ago, this is unthinkable. But yeah, it's pretty cool that it's happening right now. Now, of course, whenever we're aiming towards something new, like you mentioned, book, different levels of engagement with your client base, there's always something we're refining in the present. So what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now?
Yeah. Well, the guide, I have a few guides that I take that offer with clients because these are not like anything you can get off of Amazon. This is a tested, tried, true frameworks and exercises and the work that I do with clients. I've had have duplicatable success. So I have created my own guide, if you will, that just guides us through the work. It's always a client's agenda, but we inevitably go through these same exercises, et cetera. It's too much to get into right now, but I'm always developing my next 0.0 version of that. And so I kind of joke around. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm like on 12.0 version of that. That's going to continue forevermore, just because I think as I evolve and as the times evolve, why wouldn't the work not evolve? You either grow or you die. And this is one of the things I think has contributed again to me continuing to grow for 11 years, year after year in my business, is that I continue to grow with it and it grows with me. So that is one thing I'm going to work on. And then, of course, getting my talk together so it can really serve and make an impact and help someone just take some nugget of takeaway for them.
Okay. Talking about taking away nuggets for
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
let's pretend we have a time machine in front of us, Jill. Okay. We're going to have 2 stops. First stop, Jill, you can go back in time 11 years ago. You opened shop, right? You opened your business, coaching business, and you can give yourself one piece of business advice you wish you knew back then. Okay. What would that be?
One piece, I guess hire that assistant right away. Don't wait.
That it made that much of a difference for coaches listening out there.
Yes. Like you said, and like, we know you wear so many hats. There's who's going to carry the vision? Me. Who before assistant was implementing the vision? Me. Who was running the sales? Me. Who ran the marketing? Me. Operations? Me. The financial piece? Me. And CPA. I mean, like, this is where the work is, to compartmentalize all the different hats and who can help, or at least know which bucket you're working in. And this is another piece that helped me not have like as high a burnout, is because I would go to work. I would set my calendar to have buffer days, my working days, coaching days, and then like work on the business days. Whether I was working on finance or marketing. So I really set up my calendar to know which bucket I was working in. But I'll tell you, having an assistant to just help keep me focused and to take as much as she can off my plate has just been a game changer. She is a gem. She's a gem.
Okay. Kudos to the assistant and hiring assistants, by the way. Now, second stop, we're going back to one point in time in your entire journey in coaching. And I know you may have several, okay? But I want the top of mind, the one that like immediately comes back to mind. This point in time you're gonna pick is the one that you feel so fulfilled, that gave you that kind of thought of, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I started this,
Mhm.
When would that be?
When would that be? Or do you want me to give you a briefing of that story?
Please give me the story. Obviously, I want to hear it.
I mean, because like, when was it? It started on an airplane. But that was probably maybe 2018. I'd have to go back and look. And this is not like what I would call an ideal or typical client. Okay. I'm sitting next to this, I say kid, younger than me, on a plane. And again, remember I told you that I had this thing that says, tell me your life story. And so I'm just sitting there. Then I get a life story. And it was truly one of the saddest stories, still in all the coaching, probably in the top 3 to 5 of the saddest childhood stories that I may have heard of who I've worked with, not out there in the world, but who I have worked with. Right. And I didn't even hardly I was just like, what do I even respond to this person? Because this person had gone through so much, had had a really challenging life, was, tried everything to cope and numb. You can only imagine all the different things. And he was like, I just don't even know what's wrong with me. And like, he was at the end of his rope. He was at a dead end. And I just looked at him and I said, can I tell you what I think? And he's like, yeah. And by this time he's crying. He's like, I can't even, if I just told you my life story. I'm like, it's totally okay. I said, can I tell you what I think? And he said, yeah. And I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think you had a really challenging childhood that your childhood mind didn't even know how to process. And that's what's stopping and affecting you today. But there's so much hope on the other side of this. And I was not at all plugging to like work with him. I didn't even know where this guy was from. Right. But he just like, the moment I said, I don't think anything's wrong with you, you could just see his whole energy change. And that is like still at the fundamental piece. Whenever I look at people and work with them, there's nothing wrong with them. I see their brilliance. I see their light. I see what's possible. I see beyond what they see. And so going back to him, I didn't really tell him what I did, told him my name. And he called me Mrs. Phillips. He was just a sweet, genuine, I say kid again. And I also say kid because you get stuck at the age that something happened to you. And so he was like an 8 8-year-old kid still, 7, 8-year-old kid, right? And so like cognitively, he hadn't really caught up. So fast forward, like, say bye off the plane. That was it. 3 months later, I get this email from him asking if we could have a call. And then he like asked me if I would work with him. And I did. And this was a kid who didn't really have a career path, didn't have the families. He had a person or two in his family supporting him, but not the parental support, immediate parental support, any of it. And he was being told to go to school and do this. But I helped him see his magnificence by magnifying the essence, which is what magnificence is, mirroring back who he truly was. And I'll tell you, like within 3 years, he was on a different trajectory in life. He went to school on something that was so aligned for him. And his first big boy job, he was making like 6 figures. I mean, like, and then he's just like got off of every drug and everything that was, whether, prescribed or not. He is just like got his first house, had a relationship. And of course, there's the ups and downs. And that is not the typical client I work with, but that's what comes to mind with, wow, you can take someone who is like feeling like this is, could be the end. And all it takes is for someone to see them, that they're not broken, magnify their essence, and help them take a few action steps forward.
Wow, powerful story. I love that.
Yeah.
Glad I asked. Okay. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, Jill, and we're going to have all the links in the description, right? Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah. The best way is just, again, to go to the website, probably for more information, jillphillipscoaching.com or strategic soul, SOUL solutions. You can also, again, see on Instagram, Jill Phillips Coaching. So I do, exploratory calls just to make sure it's a two-way fit and to get you in the best place, whether that's me or point you in a direction that's going to serve you. Because at the end of the day, it's like, how can we help each other become the best version of ourselves so we can make an impact wherever we are, so those positive ripples can happen in our family, in our, in our home, in our community, and ultimately it serves everybody in the world for you to be at your best self.
Okay. There were some few moments from this chat today that I want to highlight. Okay. Let's go back to first the origin story. I love something that you said, which is like, how do people find their thing? There is a certain level of being naive and curious at the same time that it just hits home with me because I'm very curious and I love people that are not just curious, but they are so open about the fact they didn't figure it out everything on their life because it's a journey that we're still on, right? It's not like, oh, I hit this level and I know everything. And at that stage, you're like just trying to figure out stuff, right? And eventually you found a coach and you started your business. You realized that it was your path. So very interesting. Appreciate you sharing that. Now, moving forward to the fact that you were like, how can I help when you started also and when you started your business too, coming from a place of being of service first and not trying to figure out KPIs and well, no, it's way simpler than that, right? It's like, hey, how can I help? And then you shifted from lifeguard to the lighthouse theory. I really like that. It's hard to navigate clients we're in a desperate position. It makes it very hard, right? So I love the fact that you're kind of doing the same thing, but it was with a positive note. If that makes any sense, in the lighthouse, you're that type of beacon to help. You're the guide and all that, but you're not them to absolutely save them. They need to get to the lighthouse too, right? It's not like, because when I'm thinking about a lifeguard, they're drowning and we're jumping in water and we're saving them, but that doesn't really work because it's a done with you, not done for you. You're not saving per se. You're just helping them get through the place they meant to be or they want to be, right? So there's one thing too. I love also the fact when you mention that the results, the abundance, the money, the whatever they're looking for are meant to be coming from doing the work, right? The agenda sometimes for some people, I feel like it's backwards. They're thinking about dollar signs, they're thinking about blah, 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 but they forget, for example, in selling, they think it's about closing people when in reality, it's about serving, right? You're there to help. You're there to, okay, if this is not going to work out between you and me in a transactional way, I can point you someone who can help you, even, or send you a resource, something in their plate that will eventually move them forward, not just about you closing a client, for example. So I really like that too. The last but not least is when we were talking about capacity and you mentioned the life wheel, right? That you created, how strong I am in this area, how's that area. The thing is that I like about this is like, you got to walk the talk, right? If you're asking your coachees, or whatever you want to call them, your clients for, accountability, for asking hard questions, it's only fair to do the same to you, right? You created your framework. So let's try to place that too, having coaches yourself too, which is very important. So yeah, Jill, is just my long-winded way of saying that I appreciate what you do, right? And I appreciate you sharing here today. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. It was great having you.
Pedro, thank you. You said you just want to have some real conversation, and that's why I did connect with you to do this, because I feel like you also have that same spirit of how can I help, how can I serve and support for the greater good. And so that's what brought us together. And I just appreciate you asking the questions and guiding the conversation today. So thank you.
That's it for this episode. This episode, as well as this podcast, was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help business owners elevate their business to 6, 7, and 8-figure years, all without burning out. If you're looking to grow your business, as well as get the time freedom that you are looking for, visit us at joinpurplecircle.com and see what we can do to help you and your business.